What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Cosmic Wonder. The Fantastic Four First Steps was a pretty decent success for Marvel. It didn't crush it at the box office, but it still did pretty well. But probably what's most important is that most of the people who watched the movie really loved it. It still sits at 91% with the popcorn meter on Rotten Tomatoes right now, so it was definitely a great step for Marvel. Plus, not to mention, the CGI was pretty on point for this movie. The story was also really good, and that most likely comes from Kevin Feige finally not having to deal with the Disney Plus side of Marvel. They've been talking about their new plan for a while, and now the president of Marvel Studios can actually be involved with every single movie. And what's included with that is making cuts. We know that a lot was cut from the Fantastic Four First Steps, but now, thanks to a new report, some scenes for the film have been revealed. Now, most people were concerned that the movie had such a short runtime, coming in at just 1 hour and 55 minutes. Well, they originally planned for the movie to be longer, but as we'll dive into in this video, they cut a decent amount out, which resulted in that short runtime. But you'll have to let us know your opinion at the end if you think these cuts were for the better or for the worse. Could we have gotten a better Fantastic Four movie, or would these scenes have made it worse? Let's find out. These are coming to us from the insider Cryptic 4K Qual, who has an excellent track record when it comes to scoops and reports, and some of these we knew that they cut. Some were very obvious. For example, John Malkovich's character was not in the movie at all, and we know he was going to be playing Red Ghost. They even showed some of his super apes in the film, but as it turns out, he wasn't just going to appear in the beginning montage of the Fantastic Four First Steps. He was going to appear towards the end of the movie. Originally, the Fantastic Four First Steps opened with an ABC special celebrating Fantastic Four Day. The film did not begin with Reed and Sue learning about her pregnancy. In the final cut that we saw on screen for the Fantastic Four First Steps, the Fantastic Four were present when the curtain lifted at the Ted Gilbert show. Originally, they had already disappeared by then to deal with the Red Ghost. According to the reveals, there was originally much more involving the Red Ghost and his apes. He set up diversions to keep the team away so that he could steal their ship. But Reed figured it out and hurried back to the Baxter Building, where he fought a group of the Super Apes and then stopped the Red Ghost. We did see a part of this in the Fantastic Four First Steps. As you can see in this photo, we saw the scene with Reed stretching and kicking one of the apes. And judging by what we see here, it does seem like they're at the launch pad for the ship. So this all checks out. Originally, Red Ghost was going to try and steal the Fantastic Four ship, which does line up with his story in the comics. Red Ghost, or Ivan Kragoff, was originally a Soviet scientist who wanted to beat the Americans to the moon. Kragoff knew what happened to the Fantastic Four, going into space, hitting the cosmic rays, and gaining powers. So he deliberately built a ship to go and fly into the cosmic rays himself with 3 of his super apes, giving them all powers. So it seems like in the Fantastic Four First Steps, instead of building his own ship, he hears what happened to the Fantastic Four and simply tries to steal their ship. It doesn't sound like he went into space already and got his powers, but he still does have his super apes, which we see, and they would have come into play later on when Galactus came to Earth. According to this report, the film was originally going to have a scene in which Reed Richards visits the Red Ghost in prison and offers him a work release program, in which he accepts, and the Red Ghost and his super apes then begin building one of the teleportation bridges. And that's all that was revealed about Red Ghost. Let me know, do you think he should have stayed included in the film, or is the cut okay to you? We were also supposed to learn a lot more about the backstory of Mole Man, specifically the backstory between Sue and Mole Man, because as we saw in the Fantastic Four First Steps, Mole Man is on great terms with Sue, not Reed, but Sue. So in the original version, at one point, Sue receives information that the Mole Man wanted to start a revolt in Subterranea. So she turns invisible, goes to Subterranea, sneaks up on him there, and has a discussion with him. This is where they would have given us more of that backstory. And this report also states that originally the Mole Man scene where he visits the Baxter Building was not in the movie. They seemingly cut this scene with Sue and Mole Man, but added this new scene with him going to the Baxter Building. And I gotta say, I would have liked more of it because I did really enjoy Paul Walter Hauser as Mole Man. I think he certainly looked the part and he's a great actor as well, but let me know, would you have liked to have seen this scene with him and Sue in Subterranea, or are you okay with it being cut? This next scene that was reportedly cut, I think would have really gotten some fans pretty emotional, because apparently the film was going to feature a scene in which Ben Grimm, the Thing, finds Herbie's mangled body in an alley, and then he brings him home, shocking the rest of the team. Now, what's really interesting about this is that in a plot leak for the movie, we did hear something about this. And in that plot leak, a decent amount of it came true. So it seems like this was originally planned for it, but was cut. According to that old leak, Herbie was going to get destroyed because the people of Earth, the people there specifically in New York, were turning on the Fantastic Four because they would not give up their son, Franklin Richards, to Galactus to save the entire planet. So it seems like Herbie would have gone out to run some type of an errand for the Fantastic Four, and the people saw him there on the streets, and out of frustration and anger and hatred, and maybe to even send a message to the Fantastic Four, they destroy Herbie. And I'm assuming that the scene that we got with Ben Grimm walking in the alley where the people were running away from him saying, "What about us? What about our families too?" That's most likely the scene where this would have happened. He is walking down an alley. Those people who were running away might have been the ones who actually destroyed Herbie. Then he would have came across Herbie's body, brought him back to the Fantastic Four, and I'm just assuming that at some point in time, Reed would be able to restore him, to repair him, or rebuild him and transfer basically his consciousness, or whatever you want to call it. He clearly has some type of personality, whether that's programmed or learned by AI, but I have no doubt that Reed would have restored him to basically his full self once again. I think the reason they might have cut this is because they realized that a lot of people were really going to love Herbie. But again, they would have repaired him, I'm sure, and he was in the final scenes of the movie in the Baxter Building, kind of being heroic, protecting Franklin from Galactus. Ultimately, he can't do anything, but hey, he tried. So let me know if you would have preferred this scene to stay in the movie, or are you okay with it being cut? Now, they also report that there were several scenes that were meant to be set in the Baxter Building that were removed. They would have taken place in the lab room and control room, and they state that most of these were just dialogue. And I'm okay with that, because I think it would have slowed down the third act a little bit too much. The second act was packed with action, and then to go into a slower third act, slower than it was, I think would have hurt the film, but go ahead, let me know your thoughts about that. And the last scene that was reportedly cut was at the end with Galactus. Apparently, the original was supposed to show a brief conversation with Galactus and the Fantastic Four in the final sequence when he realizes that they've laid out the teleportation bridge as bait for him. That's a little ambiguous, not sure if he realized what they were trying to do and then spoke to them about it and said something like, "Hey, no matter what's happening, I'm taking your son, you're not going to trick me." But I'm assuming it was something along those lines, because all he ended up saying was clever little bugs. I'm assuming they cut this because, once again, they didn't want to have too much dialogue in this when it's supposed to be the big final battle. They probably wanted mostly action for this, so they cut some dialogue, and we pretty much knew what was going to happen anyways. Galactus was there for Franklin, he's taking him away, or at least doing everything he can to. But ultimately, the ending would have been the same. Galactus would have been shoved into the teleporter. So this was probably okay being cut. I feel like it didn't really make that much of a difference, but go ahead and let me know what you think about this scene being cut and all of them in general. Do you think any of them should have been left in the movie, or are you okay with all of these being cut? I think I would have liked more Red Ghost, or just Red Ghost in general, rather than just seeing one of his super apes, and I definitely would have liked the scene with Mole Man and Sue, but let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe so you don't miss out on any of the latest Marvel news. You can also find us on TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and Snapchat. And as always, thank you all so much for watching. Woof woof.